Good afternoon. I'd like to call the April 9th, 2020 Board of Education meeting to order. Hope everybody's doing well. We have a flag where we could say the pledge. Is there a flag that someone could find anywhere?
I have a flag on my phone. Oh, Sandy's got a good flag.
Ah, we're ready. Oh, Sandy's got one.
Okay.
Oh,
Shall we stand?
I pledge allegiance to
the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Dawn Craft to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. So I'm going to read a story, Struggles of Our Life. Once upon a time, a daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and she didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just as one problem was solved, another one soon followed. Her father, a chef, took her to the kitchen. He filled 3 pots with water and placed each on a high fire. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one pot, eggs in the second pot, and ground coffee beans in the third pot. He then let them sit and boil without saying a word. The daughter moaned and waited impatiently. After 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of the pot. He took the eggs out, and he ladled the coffee out. And turning to his daughter, he said, "What do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee," she replied. "Look closer," he said, and touched the potatoes. She did and noticed they were soft. He asked her to take an egg and break it. She said that it was hard, a hard-boiled egg. And finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. Its rich aroma brought a smile to her face. And he explained that the potatoes and the eggs and the coffee beans had each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong, hard, and unrelenting. Put in boiling water, it became soft and weak. The egg was fragile, but when it was put in boiling water, it became a hard-boiled egg, and the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique. After they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. "Which one are you?" he asked his daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean?" The moral of this is, in life, things happen around us, things happen to us, but the only thing that matters is how you choose to react to it and what you make out of it. Life is all about learning, adopting, and converting all the struggles that we experience into something positive. I want to say that all of our people here, our school people, teachers, administration, teacher assistants, transportation, nutrition, maintenance, custodial, and everybody within our system have worked tirelessly, and they are all our heroes. And I believe I speak for all of us as I offer heartfelt thanks to them. You've done a tremendous job, and we're really thankful. And right now, I'd like to ask us to observe a moment of silence for the COVID-19 victims, those who were sick with the virus, and all those who are essential workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craft. Do I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
Do we need to make some amendments?
Yes, we do.
Karen, hold 1 second, please.
Okay.
I think the public comment session comes first, and so Ms. Jones would know if we had any people request public comment.
And we did not. Okay.
Okay, now we're at the agenda approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion that the agenda be approved?
Can we make the amendments?
Yes. Mark?
Yes, I've got two amendments, or actually I can make all 3 if you want. We'd like to put soil studies report on the agenda, and would request that happen first because we do have the contractor on the call right now. And then I would like to put the school district's response to COVID-19 and the school closure, an update on that. And the board would like to put an update on, or actually a discussion item on the superintendent's search process. Add that as an item. And then Ms. Rose, go ahead and describe exactly the part you wanted to pull from the consent agenda.
I would like to remove from the consent agenda budget amendment number 4. I'd like clarification on that, please.
And
And I'd also like to have item 2 from the consent agenda, school calendars, pulled out and further discuss.
okay,
Okay,
so those would both become separate items, Chair Etheridge. And then the rest of the consent agenda would stay the same.
I would also
Okay.
like to add a brief discussion on architect considerations.
I didn't hear that, Bill. What did you say?
I would also like to have a brief discussion on architect considerations.
okay. Any other changes? All right, so with the approval of the agenda, we would want the approval, but to remove item 2 concerning 2020-21 school calendars, remove item 4 concerning the budget amendments dated April 2nd, 2020, add soil samples for the top location sites, add the school district response to COVID-19, and amend the agenda concerning the superintendent search and architect consideration.
So I move that we approve the agenda based on the changes.
I'll
Okay, do I have-
second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved with those changes. Okay, Mark, personnel report.
No, sorry, Chairman Etheridge, what I'll do, we'll push the consent agenda down to the bottom.
Okay,
And so that'll be the last item. I'd like to start with the soil sample since we have the contractor on the call, if
okay,
you'd like.
good. All right, go ahead if you would.
Okay. Mr. Mullins, I think you're on the call. Would you like to talk a little bit about the soil sample process and then introduce our guest speaker?
Yes, I was asked a few weeks back, probably 2 or 3 weeks, to locate a soil engineering company to do a soil analysis on the 2 properties in question, the ones that are being reviewed for potential site for a new elementary school. And GET Solutions and Mr. Jerry Stalls came highly recommended by 3 or 4 people that I spoke to, and they have a lot of experience in Currituck County and the Currituck County soils and dealing with building in this area. So, Mr. Stalls, if you're on, it's Jerry Stalls from GET Solutions.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Jerry Stalls. Just to give you all a brief background, I've been with GET Solutions for over 19 years, working exclusively in northeastern North Carolina. We've been involved with several Currituck County school projects, as well as Dare County schools and Pasquotank County schools. We've also done work for Roanoke Rapids Public School District, as well as Hyde County. So we've done quite a bit of schools in the general area, and particularly with regards to Currituck County and the Moyock area. We've done, I'd say, the better part of 90% of the geotechnical engineering for both commercial and residential in this general area, including the Gateway Bank and the additional structures to the south, and some other various developments, the Dentures Place and various subdivisions and things of that nature. We did do a total of 12 borings at the Lazy Corner Road site. as well as 10 borings at the survey road site. And if y'all have not had a chance to review our report, or if there's any particular sections or comments of the report that y'all have particular concerns or questions about, feel free to fire away. I'll be glad to answer any questions to the best of my ability. In general, what we have found in a kind of a Cliff Notes version, the Lazy Corner Road site has one particular concern of mine that would be very difficult to properly analyze. That's going to be settlement. And the reason for that is because of the potential dewatering effects of the nearby borrow pit. If that borrow pit remains active during the construction of the school or even after the construction of the school, the lowering and raising of the groundwater when, obviously when they're dewatering the pit to be able to service and harvest sand, they're going to be lowering that groundwater level. Well, it's not just in the pit. There's a certain cone of influence where the groundwater will be affected in the certain radius of the actual pit. And then when they're not servicing the bar pit, they're not harvesting sand for whatever particular reason, they may turn off the pumps. That groundwater will start to come back up. Well, over time, that raising and lowering of the groundwater level can cause hydraulic compaction of sand. So when that happens, there could be some slab or foundation settlement and even possibly some pavement settlement that is going to be very difficult to predict and quite difficult to analyze. That's one of my particular concerns. The Lazy Corner Road site does also have some moderate to high shrink swell clays. These clays, if y'all aren't familiar, have the ability to expand and contract or shrink under moisture variations. In drought conditions, those clays can shrink. If you think of, if anybody's seen some of the farmer's paths in drought conditions, you might see some cracks in the surface of the clay. That's exactly what it's doing. It's contracting and it's shrinking. Whereas during wet and severe rainy conditions, very wet or flooded potentially, those types of clays have the ability to expand. Both of these volumetric changes of the clay can be detrimental to structures in particular, and as well as pavement conditions. So the way to counteract that is to dig out a part of that material, not necessarily full depth. It's not like you got to go all the way to the bottom of that clay, but you do have to dig out to a certain depth to which the remaining clay in place will not have any influence. That is something that could be a potential additional expense to the standard and typical construction of a school. And in addition to that, the soil conditions, the near surface soil conditions, depending on the final elevation of the pavements in the building. Most times the schools are elevated quite a bit, sometimes 3-4 feet, sometimes more. But in the event that the civil engineer designs the site such that the building is only arbitrarily, let's just say, 2 feet above existing grades, there is a potential for a lot of pavement areas to have a thicker pavement section than that of the survey road site, just because of the near surface soil conditions, being predominantly a heavy clay or a fat clay. The Lazy Corner Road site does have a little bit more, not significant, a little bit more topsoil than the survey road site. It's by average probably no more than about 2 to 3 inches. However, you expand that beyond a typical just a driveway, you're talking about a fairly large school footprint, a lot of pavement areas. That 2 to 3 inches can add fairly quickly. So those are some of my comments regarding the Lazy Corner Road site in particular. There are some good sands to be harvested from, say, for instance, if the civil engineer designs a wet pond for stormwater discharge. There are some good sands there, but they're a little bit deeper than what we found at Survey Road. Survey Road, the good sands are much shallower than as compared to Lazy Corner Road. So therefore, you would have more clay overburden to either potentially use in landscape areas on the site or have to haul off. As compared to Survey Road, there's less clay overburden and you have less excess material that could not be used as structural fill. one of the potential concerns, not necessarily a concern, because, we're in a fairly flat area and we have a lot of project sites that have high groundwater levels. Survey Road does have a higher groundwater level. Now, going back to Lazy Corner Road, we do believe that some of the groundwater levels we were seeing were in part affected by the dewatering operation of the borrow pit. We don't believe that 10 feet below natural surface elevations is where the naturally occurring groundwater level is. That's fairly atypical in the Moyock area. We did see groundwaters, generally speaking, anywhere from 5 to 8 feet with occasional 9 or 10 feet at Lazy Corner Road, whereas Survey Road, it's much shallower. And that's in part just to natural elevation as well as the surface runoff and availability for water to flow freely from the site. In my opinion, there may be some challenges with Survey Road for stormwater design. In all likelihood, they would be wet ponds, similar to the school in Sligo. And I think Jarvisburg is also a wet pond, if I recall correctly, not an infiltration basin. So the only negative comments I could potentially have about Survey Road, or precautionary comments, I should say, are going to be associated with the groundwater level. With it being closer to the surface, there is a possibility for the near surface soils to become unstable during construction. But that can also happen at Lazy Corner Road because of the heavy clays, particularly if the construction occurs during the winter. Your mass earthwork and grading operations, when they're stripping topsoil and putting in fill to raise elevations, if you have that occurring at either particular site, there is an exposure or a potential exposure to having to dig out extra soil that they normally wouldn't have to, just because of unstable conditions developing. The potential for those soil conditions to deteriorate when they're exposed to excessive moisture as well as construction traffic. And then again, dealing with groundwater at Survey Road, some of the excavations for utilities, contractor may have to do more dewatering than they would at Lazy Corner Road. Again, that's somewhat unsubstantiated, potentially due to the dewatering operations of the borrow pit at Lazy Corner Road affecting the groundwater conditions in that area. That's kind of a general synopsis of the report that we presented. Again, if there's any questions or particular concerns, feel free to ask away. I'll be glad to help in any capacity I can.
Yes, Mr. Stalls, my name's Will. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So what did you say the groundwater level was at the Survey Road site? I missed that.
Let me see. I'll pull it up on the report here. Bear with me just 1 second. This is page 12. Let me go to 14 here. And I do apologize. I'm having to work remotely, so my laptop's not as quick as my desktop at the office.
No problem. And then the other question would be, at the Lazy Road site, how big is the cone that you usually use for your range from your point of dewatering, meaning the pit, having an impact on the groundwater? Like how many feet or miles is that cone going to be a problem typically? Like how far would you be until you'd be outside that cone?
That, unfortunately, there is really no kind of industry standard for that. Even being well versed with the soil conditions in a particular region, the reason is because the pure dimensions of the pit, the depth of the pit, their volume of pumping, the rate of pumping, the porosity of the subsurface sands, various numerous variables. There really should not be or can't be a industry standard typical, in my opinion. There is companies that do studies to determine that cone of influence. I actually know Charles Hall with Miller Stevens Associates MSA, and for reference, just a point of thought there, they were the civil engineer associated with the Moyock Library, whoever has some knowledge and experience with that particular site. So just food for thought there. But they do have a division in their company where they do studies to evaluate the dewatering operations and the effects in the nearby area, particularly when dealing with drinking wells for residences. And going back, it looks like for Survey Road, 3.5 to 5 feet below natural surface elevations.
And the other site
And
was more than you thought it would be because of the dewatering.
there was some pretty drastic variations in that water level. Lazy Corner Road range generally from 3.5 to 10 feet below natural surface elevations, and especially considering the flat topography, or reasonably flat topography in our area, that's a pretty significant change in groundwater levels.
Yes, sir. Is there any adverse impact on any of the commercial structures that are in that cone that would be near that site that you're aware of?
I have not heard of any. The closest two buildings that I can think of are going to be the Hardys and also the denture place there. If memory serves, was affordable dentures. And to my knowledge, I don't believe they have any adverse effects, but they are, I wouldn't say a substantial amount further away, but they are quite a bit further away. And now, again, not knowing the cone of influence and the radius of that cone of influence, I'm unaware if the dewatering operations would be a dramatic effect on the particular school site itself. It may be within a closer proximity or in that radius of influence with various gradients.
Okay. And lastly, the other survey site, you mentioned stormwater challenges because of the groundwater level. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. And a lot of times that's also often battled, if you would, by raising the site in elevation, which most school sites are done anyway. I think the lowest one I've seen raised was probably Jarvisburg, if memory serves me correctly, that or possibly one of the Dare County schools. And it was only a couple of feet. Most of the time we see schools being raised every bit of 4 feet above natural surface elevations. So considering that, would then have in turn a groundwater level roughly on the order of about 7.5 to 9 feet below final grades. That will provide a much better option for the stormwater. But if the civil engineer were to try and hold the final surface elevations of the pavement in the building at lower elevations to make it more economical for construction purposes, there would certainly be some challenges with the groundwater levels, because with natural groundwater elevation being so much higher.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one question, Mr. Stalls. My name's Janet Rose. You mentioned the Lazy Corner, the effects of the dewatering because of the mine. If the mine stopped, how long before we wouldn't have to worry about the effects of it?
It wouldn't be so much if the mining operation was continuous and the dewatering was continuous. You really wouldn't have a significant amount of hydraulic compaction of the subsurface sands, in my opinion, to cause unpredictable settlement magnitudes. It's the variation in the operations. In other words, when they turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. And again, that's not necessarily within a matter of overnight. We're talking a period probably in excess of a week for that groundwater level to reestablish its natural elevations, and it could be a few days less. But we're talking a little bit of an extended duration, not necessarily just like overnight. They're going to turn the pumps off and they turn them back on the next morning. And that's not what I'm talking about. But again, it's when they turn the pumps off, then they come back, turn the pumps back on, that groundwater level will then start to recede again for their mining operations. And similar to the beach, if you think about when a wave washes up on the beach and up in Corral and trucks are driving on that beach, they loosen that sand up. But when the water comes up and washes up on top of it, it helps tighten it back up. That's called hydraulic compaction. Very similar process, but it's a little bit different when you're talking about, subsurface conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I think the question is, Mr. Lomcraft, I think that we were told that mining operation, that pit, would be closed in a matter of time. So how would that affect us once they close it? And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
how would that affect us once they close it and it's no longer in operation? Would that change the dewatering?
No, it wouldn't change. Well, yes, it would change our concern. If the operation stayed consistent, and even, say for instance, they're still in service during construction of the school or even after construction of the school, if they remain consistent, then I wouldn't have as much concern. Conversely, if the school was going to be constructed after the mining facility was decommissioned and they stopped servicing, then it wouldn't be of a concern because the groundwater level is going to remain at a consistent elevation.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Stalls, this is Karen Etheridge. In your expert opinion, are the two soil sites comparable?
By soil conditions, I would say that Survey Road is probably a little bit more advantageous. You have the ability to be able to harvest sand at shallower depths for use on site as structural fill, pavement fill, things of that nature. Lazy Corner Road does have a little bit more clay overburden that would be a little bit more costly.
Okay.
And Lazy Corner Road does have some shrink swell clay considerations that would need to be handled with possibly additional expenses. But there again, like I mentioned before, the elevation of the groundwater level at Survey Road is right now is what we saw is quite a bit higher.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from any board members?
Yeah, I have one remaining question. Mr. Stalls, I'd be interested to know, do you recall what the elevation currently is at either site?
No, sir. I unfortunately, I did not have any topographic information of either site. I know that there may be some limited information via GIS, but we typically don't reference that because it's not established by a PLS, a professional land surveyor. So our firm as engineers, we got to have a certain accountability, and we don't reference GIS elevations even if they are provided. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering because I thought in addition to the ground table, water table, the elevation, meaning surrounding properties as they're built or are built, roads, etc., you were going to have a potential for a runoff at a lower elevation than you would at a higher elevation. A greater potential, I would think.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about just water runoff associated relative to elevation, you are correct. At higher elevations, you have a potential for, with adjacent properties having considerably lower elevations, you would have a higher potential for water runoff. But that, in theory, should be captured by the civil engineer's stormwater design, with the use of curbs and drop inlets, stormwater piping, going to stormwater ponds, overflow catch basins if necessary, things of that nature.
Yes, sir. I was just commenting that if you had the same school at two different elevations, unless you put a lot more of what you just said in with the civil engineer, then it's likely one of your sites, not the pad for the school or the paved area, might stay wetter unless you have a lot better soil conditions in the lower one. Is that safe to say?
I guess I'm not completely following you.
Well,
I mean, a higher elevation.
I guess when I drive around the county, I look at all the older buildings. and the older farms, I notice farmhouses, I notice they're typically on the higher land. And usually what got built on last or towards the tail end is the lower land. And where I'm going with it is that you might not have a problem today on a lower site, but you might inherit a problem later.
Oh, I can understand what you're saying and in your thought process. I would say there is some validity to that. Again, with proper design techniques, it can be mitigated. But to say that it would be an absolute, no. You're somewhat correct, and I would agree with you to a certain extent that there is some exposure there.
I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stalls, would you do us all a favor? And I received your report and I started reading it. Of course, I didn't understand a lot of it. What I would like to request is that you do a summary page for both parcels in question, and basically bullet points with the pros and cons of each and any obstacles that we may face for each parcel.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly not a problem.
Just the cliff notes. I just want the cliff notes compiled so that I can read it a little.
Completely.
I
Not
agree.
a problem.
I thank you for your explanation, though, because it was definitely way above my head.
It's not a problem. Completely understandable, and I'll be happy to oblige.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yep.
No.
Then, Mr. Stahl, for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all, and y'all be safe.
You
Thank
too.
you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Do we want to have any further discussion concerning the soil samples of our 2 location sites?
Well, it sounds like both has pros and both has cons.
Yes.
Both sites. I don't think, I don't know if what he's told us would make us steer away from one completely. I think this is a part of the puzzle, and we need to get the other information that we've discussed on school sites. Price is a biggie from each of them, and what they're, what's involved in it.
Yes.
And Bill has a good point. I believe he said he wanted to talk about an architect.
That's correct.
I certainly we could consider an architect's ideas, but again, all pieces of the puzzle I think need to be laid on the table before we make a decision.
I agree.
Karen, can we jump to the architect discussion now?
Yes.
Because it ties in with the soil samples?
Yes, let's go ahead and discuss that.
One thing I was going to recommend that the board take a look at, Clark Pierce as being the architect. He designed Moyac Middle School, Shawboro, and Jarvisburg. So he's familiar with all the nuances that go on with our, coastal county and the heating and air conditioning loads, the wind loads and things like that. And he, probably has a civil engineer that works for him that can help him decide, looking at these soil samples, what is the best site, considering whatever footprint he gives the new elementary. And I think we talked about just coming up with the same school that we have at Shawboro, maybe adding just a couple classrooms on the end of each of the 3 wings. And then the only thing that he would probably have to do would be decide, is the cafeteria big enough? You may have to redesign that, but that would be my suggestion, that we talked to Clark about, possibly being the architect for this school.
I think that architect was well received. I actually called one of our former board members, John Barnes. I know he had lots of experience with building some schools in the county over his tenure, and he highly recommended this person, Bill. He did not recommend the one that built the high school out of Miami, but he said this person was good. However, rather than just going with Shawborough or Jarvisburg Elementary, I'm not saying they're not the best. I would like to look at other schools that have been built, plans that we could access. My understanding is the state has plans that are available to us. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, and we put a I think an RFQ out there for architects, and the RFQ window closed last week, and we got seven or eight architects that are interested in sharing their plans that are off of that state pool of approved plans, and the Shawborough Jarvisburg architectural firm is one of the 7 or 8.
Okay.
And so he had other plans as well?
We'd have to check on that if they've got other plans. What you run into is if you go off of the plans that are in the state pool, that they've already been built once somewhere and they've already been approved by the state, that is one type of process, and that's why we put the RFQ out. If you wanted to look at anything that anybody could design brand new from scratch, we would have to initiate a new process, because then that's building from scratch, and that's a different type of bid process. We heard from this board and definitely from the commissioners that they were comfortable with using that pool of already approved plans at the state level as our pool to choose from. And so we ran the process that way, and we've got, like I said, we've got 7 or 8 that said they were interested.
So and I agree with that. And did this person that Bill is recommending, did he respond that he has plans? Or did he not respond?
They responded, and their one plan, I would have to check if they have more than one plan that's on the approved pool. We know that the Shawborough Jarvisburg design is in the state approved pool. So this firm definitely has that one in there. We would have to ask them if they have other plans in the pool as well.
Okay. Well, I'd like to look at some. I myself would just like to be sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck, and look at possible schools and plans that have been used in the state.
Well, just keep in mind that if it's not been built in the Northeast before, even though it's a stock plan at the state, they may have to redesign the heating and air conditioning load,
right,
and also the wind capacity loads. Yeah, so that would be extra money on top of it.
I understand that, but I'd still like to know if we have, I'd just like to see what's available. That's not to say that we have to go with one that, but I'd just like to see.
Yeah, see what he has. He may have had the plans for like First Flight, some of the plans that have been built locally. Let's just see what our options are with what he has. And I don't want to, go with a new plan per se that was going to cost a lot of money and that's not approved with our wind codes and things such as that. I'd like to see right in Northeast North Carolina what has been approved and has been built. And then if it's nearby, if it's Dare County or Camden or Elizabeth City, we could possibly take a look.
Did you say middle school also? He built.
Yeah, he was the architect of Moyac Middle School back when I was superintendent. And that's how I became affiliated with him.
Okay.
And then I know that he designed Shawborough and Jarvisburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I agree with trying to use something that's already been done once before with the wind loads. But I think we should look. I like those buildings you just mentioned, Bill. But I also think did you say we had 6 or 7 that meet our criteria, meaning wind and Northeast North Carolina building requirements? 7 plans?
No, we don't know that yet. These are just people that had plans in the state's pool And that was going to be my question to the board. Do you want Matt and I to do some investigation and see how many of the 6 or 7 that put their names in the hat have Northeast North Carolina experience?
Yes, I do.
Please.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, they should in this pool be able to tell you the projected cost per square foot per that building.
Right, right,
All those buildings cost the same.
right, right.
And I'd also like to see, going back to the previous discussion, but seeing as we combined it, I really think it's prudent to know what the current elevation of the 2 potential sites are. I mean, I'm kind of surprised we don't have that information already.
Okay, and I may actually be able to get that from across the street. I can check with the engineer's office across the street and see what they have.
Okay,
They
thank
should
you.
have.
I agree with Bill, to want to get the process moving. And that fella, as Bill said, he was great. And as former board member John Barnes said, he did a great job. So I'm not saying we don't want to use him. I just want to look at all the possible schools and make sure we get the best school for our county and the most bang for our buck.
Okay. How many does the board want us to present to you?
How many school designs?
Yeah. Do you want Matt and I to whittle down the options, or do you want to see 6, 7, 8 that
I'd
you
like
have to
to
make a decision about?
Well, like Will said, let's try to find out who's built in the Northeast before, because you could get a good design that was built over in Cullowhee. But it would
And
have
it would
to be completely redesigned to meet our standards over here.
Well, it would have to meet that criteria. I would say if you can narrow it down to three designs that have been built locally. I don't think you need to look at 6 or 7.
Way.
Yeah, I'd say 3 to 6. And from where? Rocky Mount to here? Is that what you said, DeWan?
Well, I was thinking of the fog line, the flat land, because
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that would be good. In anywhere between I-95 and here.
That's probably the fall line, somewhere in there. My 4th grade geography is.
I mean, another idea is maybe we need to consult with somebody, not necessarily commit to the whole project, but maybe we need a consultant to take our hand and lead us along this journey.
Well,
Well,
you know what?
there's volunteers that we have, the consultant that we could work hand in hand with her. Wasn't that the understanding?
Yes, ma'am. Well, then we should take advantage of that offer. All I'm saying is we need somebody that's versed on this subject and has been through this process or aided in it to assist us from this point forward, I think. That's my
Well,
suggestion.
the last time that we built schools, Shawboro and Jarvisburg, we had a person, I guess, that was a Currituck County employee, Bruce McDonald. Am I right, Bill? Am I correct?
I wasn't around when Shawboro and Jarvisburg were built.
Well, it was Martha McDonald's husband, Bruce, and he kind of oversaw, I guess, what was being. He was like our person, Will, that kind of like we had the person.
We had a construction manager when
I
the
like
middle
the
school
school,
was
Scarborough.
built. That was MB Construction.
I like the school, Scarborough. I don't like the location. I
Yeah.
don't
I
like
agree.
the elevation.
I don't either. So,
Okay, so where I'm going with this is you can have a great building in the wrong spot, or you can have a great spot with a not so good building. I'd like somebody's professional input.
I guess that would be like an architect, right, Bill?
well, you're probably going to want to get a civil engineer, plus you would need the architect because he's the one that's going to have the footprint for the building. It's got to fit on the site.
Who can we get for a civil engineer, Mark?
I don't know, Matt, you still on?
I'm here. I mean, we're all over the map right now. My suggestion is we take the plans, the boxes, the 9 packages that arrived, and try to whittle those down to some people that have built in this area, and then choose the ones that we want to talk to and get some information on the land and the soil analysis to them so we can get a start. And the county did say that they have their project engineer that they were going to allow us to work with to oversee the project, so we didn't have to hire anybody else.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
well, that sounds good, Matt.
Then I think we should involve them sooner than later.
I agree. I don't know what the project is. I know that Ben Steichleather said that she was, I believe it was a she. Yeah, she is on another project right now for them, but there was nothing else on her plate for a while. So I think it's the emergency response building she's involved in right now, but I'm sure she would have time to deal with us, except for all the social distancing things that are going on, but I'm sure we could speak with her.
Well,
Yeah.
Good plan.
I think go on and whittle down the people you were just talking about that you got interest from, and we can at least start on that.
Yeah, I have 9 boxes on my table over here right now that we can start going through to try to find the best 2 or 3.
Great.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thank you,
Okay.
Matt.
Thank
Not
you,
a
Matt.
problem.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to school district response to COVID-19, Mark.
Okay, very good. In my email, I put several people's names down here because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. We've created a document, a newsletter, if you will, about just real quick, folks. If you want to mute your microphones, we're getting a lot of like cave echo over here. We've created a newsletter with all the things that we're trying to do for our students and their families during the school closure because of the virus. And again, I don't want to leave anybody out, but we've got some frontline employees that ever since the school closure, they've been on the clock every day. And with some other folks that have had abbreviated work schedules and some that have been given the option of work from home rather than work from the office for safety reasons, because of the types of work these people are doing, they're actually interacting with the community so that our kids have food and or technology services to use while the schools are closed. In our newsletter, we got a report from Ms. Rodriguez in school nutrition, and we've served over 53,000 meals since the schools have been closed. And that's amazing because with the closures and the social distancing, it's not just about the kids coming through the cafeteria to get their lunches or their breakfasts anymore. They're producing the meals, and then we're putting them on, I believe, 13 or 14 buses and doing local drop-offs of the food all around our county. And so it's a really impressive effort that they're putting forward. And then technology is doing some of the same work. Not only was technology involved with keeping the schools running technologically, now we're actually extending our help desk that virtually any household in the county is going to have access to our tech department so that the students can participate in any type of the remote learning that is going on in the district. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the teachers. Most of the teachers in the world today are used to teaching students that are sitting right in front of them. Our teachers have rolled up their sleeves. They've gone through online trainings with the tech department, and they're trying to produce to the best of their current skill levels. They're trying to produce activities for the students to do at home. It's a totally different environment for most, if not all, of our teachers, and they're really being proactive and motivated to get in there and try to produce the best things they can for the students. And so that's just a general summary, but I want to involve Matt and Renee at least in the conversation so they can give some more specifics about some of the activities that have been going on since the schools have been closed. Matt, Renee?
Well, I know that, and Renee, just jump in here. Whenever we got together on March 13th, I think we saw this coming. So we actually started off about 2 days ahead, but the efforts by the entire district have been incredible. Our teachers, we basically have flipped from a classroom where we see our kids to one where we are now working remotely, and our principals have been just absolutely incredible in delivering the message and making sure that learning continues, and we continue to modify and to look, and we're going to continue to examine and make it better as we move forward.
I think that some of the best things come out of some of the hardest circumstances. And I think for us, now seeing the blessings of being in a small community where we know everybody and we're all intertwined. Again, Mark hit on, man, our child nutrition and our transportation folks who are literally on the front lines, who are doing the things that everybody says be sure not to do, who are seeing people in the community and touching them by giving them food, not really touching them, Angela, I don't mean that, but really are putting themselves on that front line to make sure our kids are fed. And by that number, it's a much needed service. And I know she was really pushing for a break for them for next week. And unfortunately, some plans fell through, but we know it's needed. And those people have risen to the occasion to say, we know it's supposed to be spring break, but here we are. And we want to make sure our kids get fed and no child goes hungry. So again, a big shout out to them and the tech department. Lord knows we've issued more technology out in a very short time to everybody. And even today's meeting, you guys have had to jump on and figure out how to navigate this new world of online learning. And I'm sure it's been a little bit of a learning curve for everybody, but it's brought about the best things about our school system, that it's about family, that it's about helping one another. It's about us pulling together as a team. And I think some of the things we've highlighted on this little document is really all about that. This is about us all pulling together and working together to still provide learning opportunities for our kids, knowing that it will not be the same as if we had them in our classrooms, but understanding that we still have a job to do and making sure that they're ready for whatever's next, whether that's May 15th or it's the end of the school year or it's next fall. We're doing our part to do that. And the teachers have been unbelievably good at adapting to, and I think our community has. I told teachers last night on a town hall meeting, I really believe that this unfortunate event has shed a lot of light on the great work they do every day and how underappreciated our school staff are day in and day out.
I want to add in there that Sandy has been, and Angela, and we don't want to I'm trying to not do the individuals because someone will get left out, but the tech department, if we got laptops, we got Chromebooks to our teachers in K-5. They had not had them before this year. And I can only imagine where we would be if we hadn't identified that as a big issue. And so we were a little bit ahead, and then we're working on, as you can see in the document, we're working on getting Chromebooks and devices out all the way across 3-5. And we are also prioritizing, Renee and I have created a priority list, like who's our most at-risk learners, and then who's going to get devices first, and work our way through that. Who gets devices and who needs internet hotspots and so on and so forth. And again, it's been a huge team effort, and just everybody pitching in as much as I've ever seen a large group of individuals come together. Just exhausting, but very rewarding at the same time.
With all that being said, there have also been some state policies put in place to take care of employees. There's an emergency leave policy at the state level, and so to not have to call in people and create, for lack of a better term, some busy work for folks to do if their job description really, can't be accommodated with some other activities or tasks, and or the people are in some of the high risk categories for catching the virus. Those folks are permitted to stay home, and through a special state account, they remain whole as far as their salary and their compensation goes. But with that comes a little bit of a domino effect kickback. Then we go back to the people that we're mandating, to be in service their regular workday, day in and day out. And so at the state level right now, there are some conversations to potentially give some bonuses to the food service and transportation people, and even some technology people who have been asked to, be on the front lines every single day, and they don't have the option of either working from home or getting a modified work schedule. And I would like to request of the board permission to have a conversation with Mr. Steichleather that if the state doesn't come through on this stipend or bonus for these people that are going the extra mile, if we can have some discussions about what we might be able to do for them locally.
I'm for that.
I agree. I think that I would like to see that happen also.
I'm crossing my fingers that the state, finds a pocket of money to be able to do that, for people statewide. But if not, we can give them a little local thank you somehow.
I know that those folks that have been providing food for our children have worked just as hard, if not harder, than they did when school was in session. And probably the same for our technology people. A lot of our staff has been able to work from home some, but these folks have not.
Yep. I agree. If folks, if they're not talking, can go ahead and turn their mics off. We're getting some feedback again.
I think it might be one of the phone call people.
Oh, okay. The phone call people. One other thing I just want to alert the board to that you'll see in the newsletter is that we are taking a hold harmless approach to student grades. That was something that was put on the state agenda, but they did it primarily for seniors. But there is a provision in the state guidelines that say if you can't guarantee that all students have equal access to internet, and we can't, or that all students have educational support at their homes, at the same level, and we can't guarantee that either. And so the hold harmless provision says that wherever a student's grade was when school closed, that's the lowest potential grade that any student can get, for any other grading process that we have going forward. If they do some of these online activities and they turn them back in, and the teachers look at them and evaluate them and it's good quality work, grades can actually come up, but grades cannot go down, because we can't envision every single learning environment that's going on throughout the entire county. So we put that out to our teachers, and the teachers have been receptive to that. Some have some questions, but for the most part, they've been receptive of that philosophy and that process. And so that was released this week off of several conversations with other school districts and state level people providing us guidance. So in case you hear, either my kid is getting graded, or we heard today through a parent, how can you grade anything, if the kids don't have teacher support or parent support at the level they would have in school? You might hear it either side of the debate. But our thing is that we knew what the educational experiences were up through March 13th, and now the educational experiences are somewhat in question, regardless of how hard our teachers are working to provide the educational opportunities. And so the grades as of the middle of March, that's the grade, that's the base grade, and then they can only go up from there. Any other administrators want to add anything else on the COVID response, or can we move on to the next item?
Move on to the next item.
Okay. Ms. Rose had a question about budget amendments, and I'm just checking. Larissa, are you out there?
Oops, Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I had my microphone, muted, but I have a question for you on the COVID-19 ramifications before we move on to that.
Okay.
I was listening to one of our governor's briefings, and he mentioned providing childcare services for our essential healthcare workers. And he was talking about putting something into place. It had not happened yet, but he wanted to use elementary ed teachers. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, they put out information to see who would be interested, and in one of our regional superintendents meetings, it was suggested that we wait for requests from your county or your area, and so that's where I've landed. I get concerned when we were told to shut down the schools so that groups of students don't come together, and then we hear about potential childcare happening inside of our schools, and so I had some questions about how that would happen and how we would maintain a safe, healthy environment with those students coming in from various places. And so the suggestion was wait till somebody reaches out with the need, like we have a need in X area or area A or whatever, and then we would get into further conversations about volunteering for that. It was just a scary proposition when it first came out.
I expect there will be more of a need in the Triad area.
Sorry, it
Yes.
looks like we lost Karen. It
Oh,
looks like
okay.
Karen dropped off of the call. So we need to try to get her back on. I'm sorry, Miss Rose. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And you know what? She has just messaged me asking if I'm still on. What should she do?
To go back through the initial link that was in that chart, that meeting link, and just rejoin the meeting.
Okay. Go back to initial link.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've messaged her.
Sorry about that. I just noticed our tile shifted and she was gone.
Her screen is frozen.
I would say try to refresh the screen with F5 on the keyboard. And if not, go all the way out and come all the way back in.
Or while she's doing that, she could do the phone call and come in audio.
That same number that was on the chart, she can call in.
Do you have that number handy?
It's on the email. Hang on. Yvette maybe can get to it faster than me. We're both looking.
Okay.
One 502 791 5214.
And then she needs the PIN number.
Right. Then there's a PIN number.
Okay.
675.
Okay.
182. 335.
Okay.
And Sandy, do they need the number sign after it? The pound sign?
No.
Okay.
Okay. She's replied, okay. So I'm taking it she's trying. Sandy, you just gave an example of our technology.
We are doing the best we can, and we're all going to get through this together. It's wonderful when it works, and when it doesn't, it makes everybody crazy. But we're all working through the problems.
Well, I sure appreciate your help in getting me set up for this virtual meeting.
I think Yvette may be on the phone with Karen now. I'm not sure.
Sounds like the same thing that's happening to
Freeze, and other times it's a delay.
Chairman Etheridge is going to call in.
Now we just lost Yvette.
Shall we take a break?
Maybe it's a sign. Carrie just messaged me to keep smiling, so she's watching from the stream. So everybody wave to the internet. There's that. So now we're just waiting for Karen.
Okay. It says somebody by phone joined and one more. So Karen, are you there?
I think that's Larissa and
can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Okay, I'm here. Just by phone.
Okay. TV timeout's over.
All right, I'm going to try to refresh, see if I can get you back on streaming. But go ahead. I may have missed a little bit because y'all just froze. Everybody froze in place. But y'all go ahead with your discussion, see if I can catch up.
We stopped as soon as we noticed you were gone, so hopefully you didn't miss anything.
Okay, all right.
We were just talking about the COVID-19 and the governor possibly asking to use elementary teachers for childcare for essential health people. He is looking.
Oh, okay.
He's looking at doing that.
Okay, great.
And again, our response to that is we would be open to a conversation if the need arises in our area, but we haven't been contacted yet directly. It was just a statewide, request for all education, agencies to be ready if in fact the need came about.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, I would just need some real medical guidance on how to make sure that everybody at the daycare, students and staff alike, would be able to maintain safety in that type of setting.
Okay, good.
Do we have anything else to share with their students about things that have maybe been canceled or postponed, or what's going on with that?
You said, do we have anything else to share?
Yeah, like, I know what's on everybody's mind, the graduation and the prom. Do we have?
That's the last bullet on that COVID-19 update.
Yeah.
But
is that coming?
Yes, it's in the newsletter, and it's going to be, it either is posted or it's going to be posted on the website and sent out through our social media. And it says that we understand and we value the senior activities, specifically prom and graduation, and we'll do everything in our power, to maintain those events. But right now, with 10 being the number that is allowed to be together, and you have to maintain 6 feet of distance or more, it's impossible for us to schedule those events at this time.
Really waiting for governor's direction, I'm sure. But
oh, yeah.
And you are sending this out to people via email or mail. How are we getting this to our families?
We'll use it on every public release avenue we have, and then we can even put out an all call telling people to check either the website or Facebook or Twitter or anything that we can send out. Email. I don't know that unless we use the student emails, I'm not sure we have an email for every house, and so just putting it more on social media is probably a faster way to get it out.
So we'll have something more formal that's going to go out to parents. Obviously, we're getting ready to start spring break after tomorrow afternoon. It would have been an early release day if we were in school. So we have a draft message that's going to go out to every family talking about spring break, where we are with remote learning, how we're going to structure our meal deliveries during spring break, because we will still have those for families. It may just look a little bit different. And we're going to walk through those things. Also talk about Power School, because Power School is going to need to go dark for a little while because the state's releasing new codes for seniors, new grading terms, and lots of things behind the scenes. So we're going to send an all call out that we do know goes to every family, and then use our social media outlets. We probably won't hit on grading until after spring break, because that's a really cumbersome process and a lengthy discussion that offers a lot of questions for seniors, especially, and everybody else. We'll probably do that after spring break and not burden anybody with that information as we get ready to have a little bit of period of rest, hopefully, for everybody.
I think that's good to get that out. And, just as a parent of a high schooler who is in the process of deciding on college and scholarships and all that, I too want to give a shout out to the guidance department. They have been readily available to help our students with anything they needed for the transition to college. And I'm very appreciative of them. I've seen that firsthand.
Awesome.
Okay, any further discussion? I think y'all have done a great job. I mean, with that, the COVID-19 update, I think social media would be a good avenue to have that posted on, as well as our county website. But again, my hat's off to y'all for doing such a good job with that. Okay, should we skip down to just briefly touching on just letting the public know about our superintendent search? Mark, is that okay if I discuss that at this time?
Sure. You're
Okay.
the chair.
Oh, okay. Just so the public knows, they may or may not be aware that Mr. Stefanik will be leaving us at the end of July, and he's going to be moving back to Ohio with his wonderful wife and children this summer. So we will be starting the process of looking to fill the position of superintendent for Currituck County Schools. And I just wanted everyone to know that we will be starting that process as soon as we can. This is something that we don't take lightly. We want to make sure that we put in place interviews and, making sure the applicants have plenty of time to put their application in and start the interview process. And we're undecided right now if we're going to hire the North Carolina School Board Association, but we're going to get together and decide and make a plan. So I just wanted everyone to know that we're on top of that, and we're going to be starting that process soon.
Do we need to make a motion to have a meeting just for that?
We can, if you'd like to make a motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we have a meeting the week after spring break, not next week, but the following week, so that we can determine what we're going to do as far as their superintendent search goes.
Okay, and I would second that motion. Any discussion?
Well, this is unique for a superintendent, but can I modify that motion?
Yes, please.
I was going to ask if the board would have any time the week after spring break to possibly have another meeting to talk about our capital outlay list for next year, and possibly even have, although it might be a quick timeline, we might be able to have the architect selection narrowed down by that time. And so if the board wanted to create a special meeting day and discuss those three items all at the same time, that might be worthwhile.
So are we looking at the week of the 19th?
I believe that's right.
Okay. We've got Easter Sunday, the 12th this Sunday, and then the 19th is the following Sunday. So what do you think, maybe the first of that week, 20th or 21st?
I'm available
Should
either day.
all be pretty flexible. We're supposed to be staying at home.
Right. Yeah, we'd have to have another meeting such as this one.
Unless the governor.
Sandy, do you think we could set that up for maybe the first of the week, the 20th or 21st, just like we have today, but have all our information gathered where we could discuss it?
Certainly, I'll get it set up.
Okay. All right.
So
Any
we have-
further discussion?
Yes, do we have a closed session that same day in case we talk about specific personnel?
We can, yes.
So
Okay.
will this meeting that we're talking about on the 20th more or less be a work session with a closed session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I think too, can we just say that coming back from spring break on a Monday and hit with a meeting might be hard, especially like a vet who pulls everything together. Could we look to do that Tuesday instead?
Sounds
Sure.
good.
Nice job,
Yeah, that's
Renee.
fine with me. So let's shoot for the 21st. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm good.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. What time
Fine.
would be? What time would be good for everyone?
8 in the morning.
Earlier rather than later.
Wait a minute now. 8 in the morning.
How about,
You really do want to see us in our pajamas, don't you?
I'm just getting my coffee at 8.
how about 10?
10? Okay.
I mean, I'm good anytime, but
All right, let's shoot for 10 o'clock, and let's tentatively plan on the 21st if everybody will kind of clear their schedule, and we'll do it the same like we've done today remotely. Okay, got that covered. All right, and we removed the,
Budget amendments.
what?
yeah, we removed the school calendar, number 2 and number 4 budget amendments. Did y'all want to discuss that?
Yeah,
I do need.
Yeah, pick one to go with and have a conversation about it.
All right. Will, you wanted to delete or remove it, not delete it, but remove it. Can you start that discussion concerning the school calendar?
Yes, I can. So I'm assuming that this, the proposed draft that we had at the last work session, I'm looking at the K through 8 2021 calendar, draft option 1. Is that the calendar we'd be speaking about?
Yes.
Okay. I just, I'm not a big fan of increasing these early release Fridays, as I said previous. I think it's going to put a real strain on families with kids that age. I don't like the idea of spending the same money to operate the facilities for a half a day and increase those. I'd rather have school closed on days and open on days. I don't think you get the same service to the kid offering half days. And I think it's going to strain people with their children needing aftercare if we did that. I think I just think it's the wrong direction to be going. So I asked that we either remove this and come up with another option, or come up with another option now. I'm just not a big fan of that at all.
Dr. Lutz, what are your thoughts on early release days? I know, I've heard from teachers that value them and they really help them plan for our students. And I've heard from parents that have said it's easier for them to find a half a day of childcare than a whole day. But what are your thoughts?
Who's that directed at, Janet?
You, Dr. Lutz.
I'm sorry. I thought, I'm like, as nobody's speaking, I'm like, that must have been at me. So I missed the first part. I think we only added, and Renee, I know you're looking through calendars, I think. We only added a couple, maybe two other Fridays. We tried to match it up more to be in line with the high schools. I'm sorry I don't have that calendar right in front of me. But I'm not sure. I think we only added two more onto those Fridays. And we did that. And yes, it is a strain, but we were trying to match it up so that if there are older siblings at home, that they can help with that at the same time. We also do feel like we're in a pretty good place with our PD right now, with that our teachers are engaged with that. And we felt comfortable moving more towards some Friday PD sessions. But again, I wish I had the exact number. Renee, did you find it while you're looking at it?
I wasn't looking back at the old calendar to compare the two. I just went through the feedback that we collected from parents and staff members in the district, and only 5. And I think we gave that to you guys at one of the last meetings where we talked about calendar. There were only 5 negative comments on the feedback for the K-8 calendar about the early release days. So I can empathize that with a kid that young, after school care does become an issue. I'm a parent to 2 kids that fall in that age range, and I can appreciate Will's comments about that. I just think that overwhelmingly the conversation in here was, whereas last year we had work days in the middle of the week, we took those away and pushed them to early release Fridays instead. And overwhelmingly, I think if you read through that information that we had on that parent survey, they appreciated that more than having the work days in the middle of the week.
Okay. And we also we kept several full day work days in there that will be, and we've run those very tightly from beginning to end with really solid PD for our teachers. So we're going to keep that intact without trying to overburden our parents at home with too many. And we moved off. I think we only staggered maybe 1 in there that doesn't line up. I think every date lines up across, with the exception of 1. Across both calendars, so that our K-8 looks the same as our high school calendar now.
And well, I would caution, so like the August early release day and the September ones, again, hypothetically speaking, that our calendars even look the same when we start next year after all this year. The August and September are the same because they're right before major holidays with beach traffic. So those have always been that way. The October one was for us to take for the end of grading period. So that's a new one. The December one is the same as it's always been. February's are new, and March is new. All the other early release days, so that's really only 1, 2, 3, 4 new early release days. And again, we took out the middle of the day work days and put them on early release Fridays.
And I'd just like to say that I think this virus dilemma has proven that these professional development days are just totally necessary, because our teachers were well ahead of the curve on what they needed to do.
I also would like for you to share with us, Dr. Lutz, about the implementation of the anti-bullying program that we purchased. We sent 2 teachers, I want to say Connecticut, but I could be wrong, to be trained. And the last of the anti-bullying meetings I went to, they had not been able to come back and train staff at the schools. So it had not been implemented. Now, I know we've had a lot of days recently where perhaps that's happened, but with these early release days, that is one thing they were looking to use them for, so they could get these people trained at the elementary level.
Let me just say this. We're going from 6 early release days to 10. We're trading out work days, which were full days, and some of them optional work days. So if you've still got the same amount of teacher work days, but we're having more half days on Friday, where is the teacher now gaining the time? Because I just added it up and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the math. I am seeing that we have 10 early release Fridays as opposed to 6. I am seeing that. I am seeing where we lost some work days that are after the end of school in June. I am seeing that, but I'm not seeing I don't see the same math. I'm looking at both calendars right here.
I think what the teachers were sharing with me with that anti-bullying training was if they had 2 half early release days, they could have 2 sessions rather than doing an all day intense. It would be a little much, but
Let me
Dr.
just say
Luke,
this. We're dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and I applaud everyone for the hard work. But we have now, we are going around and we are providing 50,000+ meals to kids that need them. Do you think that a single parent with an age of K through 8 or 2 working parents, that this is going to be easier on? Because I don't. So what I'm saying is it better for the teachers? Maybe. Is it better for the parents and the kids? I certainly don't think so.
well, I think our students will benefit from this if the teachers do what they need to. And this is the perfect opportunity to give a shout out to our parents. They've worked mighty hard through this COVID-19, and they've proven to us that they will do what's needed for their children. But
Absolutely. Everybody's doing what they have to do. That's not what I'm talking about, but we don't have to make more early release days that still cost the district the same money to provide half the service. We don't have to do that, Janet. With all due respect.
where is Dr. Lutz? I'm not seeing him. Have we lost him?
We did, and I messaged him, and he was trying to get back in.
Okay, can we stop this conversation since he is our K6 assistant superintendent, and I think he needs to be involved in it.
Sure.
Woo!
While we're waiting for Matt to reconnect, do we want to go to Janet's budget amendment questions?
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Verizon.
Gee,
Okay.
man.
Do you want me to do that?
No,
back
that
on.
was
Yes,
Matt.
Janet.
Okay. Larissa, budget amendment number 4. It's looking like we got an increase of money of 709,000.
Let me just tell you, you are on the ball because I have made a mistake, and I just sent the corrected budget amendment to Yvette. I can email that to all of you also right now if you want to see it.
Well, I hope oh goodness. I hope it's better news for your mistake, not worse.
Well, we still got some income. We just didn't get that much. So
Oh God.
Yeah. So what happened is if you look at the total appropriation in current budget line, that was the wrong number. That was our original budget amount at the very beginning of the year. So you could actually look at this and see that we've gotten $709,000 in the door since our original budget. So that's one good thing about my mistake.
Okay.
But actually, we've gotten $153,000, and that is due to some grants, federal grants that Jamie has been bringing in the door. She just got a lot of grants, and most of it went towards instructional services, so payroll actually. So if you would like, and let me know if you want me to do this, or I've emailed it to Yvette, so Yvette has it, but I can email it out to you all at this very moment, and then you can look at it, and then we can come back and discuss if you want to do that.
Can you just tell me what our total appropriation is in the current amended budget?
Yes. The total appropriation is correct. That line is correct. So it's
Okay.
$46,846,475.19.
Okay.
That line is correct. The lines that are wrong, and if you had printed this out, you can.
And I did. Thank you.
You can cross off that 716,000. Cross that off, So that will be $160,773.39. The total appropriation in current budget is $46,692,952.38. The amount of increase or decrease of above amendment is $153,522.81. So those three figures are wrong on the copy that you have.
So we did not get 709,000. I was excited.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm glad I'm not on camera because when I saw that I messed that up, I don't even know what my face looked like. So
it is okay, Larissa. I know you've been working hard. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure. So like I said, Yvette has the new one. If you'd like, I can email that to you. Just let me know what you want. Or you can get that from her. But yeah, so our current amended budget amount is $46,846,475.19.
Thank you very much. And just so somebody emails it to us, it'll be fine.
Okay. I'll do that right now.
Thank you.
Miss Rose,
Thank you.
Dr. Lutz is back.
Dr. Lutz.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, you left us. We were talking about that calendar and, the early release days. And back in, at the last anti-bullying meeting I attended, we implemented that new anti-bullying program. We didn't implement it. We sent 2 people to be trained last summer. And they had not been able to train people at their schools to implement it because they didn't have the days that were not already spoken for staff development, like countywide staff development. So I know they were looking forward to additional early release days to possibly do some training at their schools. Do you know if any of this training has taken place since we have been on this COVID-19 school shutdown? I mean, did maybe they do some of that, or are we needing the early release days to go on and get this? I mean, I'd really like to see it implemented when school starts, but I know that there's some ongoing training even after it starts.
So no, nothing has gone on since the 13th of March. We did get the staffs trained.
Okay.
At the last, let me get this correct. I do believe they went through with their training on the 13th.
Okay.
Once we canceled our speakers, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check up on that. But in listening to this, Jen, that's a great point. Like these half-day early releases they're extremely important for our elementary teachers who have less planning time across the district than anyone, and they have a tremendous amount of work to do with implementing different programs that are either mandated by the state or they are using to become better as teachers regarding like reading instruction, math instruction, and so on. And so they do not have a lot of time during the course of the day to get training or to come together. And that's why an early release day is so important for our teachers as well.
I know the high school has, an hour and 15 minutes planning a day?
90 minutes, the same as a block, I believe.
All right. So an hour and a half. And I think elementary has 45 to 50 minutes. I'm not sure about middle school, but
45 minutes.
Okay.
45 and the middle school average is 60 minutes a day. I'm sorry. A middle school average is similar to anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes a day.
Okay. I see
it depends on.
I see the need for the early release days, but that's just me.
So
I do believe our teachers use it beneficially. I do believe it is a good use of time. It is, unfortunately, we can only carve out so many hours during the course of the day and the week with the different requirements that are occurring. And so those PD days are instrumental in our improvement. We were able, for example, to do a turnaround within a couple days and get work out to our students right out of the gate because of the PD we have done. we were able to pull teams together and create documents that we would not have been able to do in that quick a time frame if we had not had our professional development days previously.
Okay.
So we got 45 minutes a day at elementary and 60 minutes a day every day at middle school for planning for teachers currently outside of those development days, correct?
The middle school varies from 60 to 90 minutes a day, depending on the building.
And we're going to carve out more because there's only so many places, like you said, you can get it from, and you use the term carve out, and I appreciate that. So what we're carving out is educational time. And that's all. I'm done talking about it. I appreciate it. We can have a difference of opinion. I don't see the bang for the buck.
Well, one thing about having professional development days, everybody's free at that same time. Whereas your planning time during the regular day varies for a lot of people, and you just can't get together and have, professional development during that time.
Yeah.
Well, and again on the disagreement part. So for example, we've talked, and I've heard you say numerous times that we want to make sure that we're on the same page, and we worked hard at that at the elementary level to ensure that a 5th grade math class at Jarvisburg looks like a 5th grade math class at Knott's Island and Milliock Elementary. We use these days to bring those teachers together to ensure that fidelity is occurring, that we're bringing them together to create, so they're not working in isolation, and that we're having those conversations to make sure our kids are getting the best education possible. And we can only do that when we have some blocks of time to pull people together. And it is not ideal to take away any instructional time, but we continue to monitor and make sure that we are exceeding our hours, that we are serving students and not minimizing them.
And I appreciate that. And I believe what you're saying is your goal, and we just have a fundamental disagreement on the approach. I'm not a big fan of us having as many guest speakers come in during a lot of this planning time and everybody meeting together. I'd rather them do it in units like you described, per the school or per the grade level in blocks like that, rather than have everybody from the district go out and attend these functions that we've been doing. But I do appreciate that everybody has the same goal, and what we're trying to do is provide a high level of service. I appreciate that. I just have a very big difference of opinion. And I think what we're getting ready to do is cause not as much good by doing it. And that's my concern.
I would like to make a motion that we approve these calendars that staff has recommended.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next we have Dr. Dobney wanted to discuss budget amendments.
No, I didn't.
No, architect.
No, we already talked about architect.
I think we're at the consent agenda.
That's okay.
I think we're just
All
at
right.
the consent agenda now.
So I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Consent agenda is approved.
Oh, we have to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Information items. Mark, since we want to put the closed session for May 20 or April 21st, and the work session, do we need to add that at this point? Or just?
Yeah, we can make that part of the informational items at the bottom, a special meeting and a closed session on the 21st.
Okay. All right, we have a work session, May 7th at maybe at Nat Professional Learning Center at 4. If not, we'll do have our meeting remotely like we have today, and then our Board of Education meeting the same day at 6:30, but that's to be determined. And then our closed session will be April 21st, 2020 at 10 a.m. We will have a closed session and a work session. Okay, Ms. Kraft, I call on you for your board comments, please.
Okay, well, usually I can say I've been to every school, but I certainly have not been to every school. First of all, I would like to apologize to Sandy and the technology staff that they were, I didn't specifically call them out, but they've been above and beyond. We just have a phenomenal staff, and I just can't tell you how much we appreciate it, because y'all have just jumped right in and gone right on and done everything that needed to be done. And with that said, I want to wish you everyone a happy Easter and to enjoy the break time, and thankful that the transportation and nutrition staff are willing to continue with the feed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rose?
I too would like to give a shout out to our amazing parents they have really jumped into uncharted waters and tried to support teachers in ways that they've never had to support them before. And I think they're doing a wonderful job. A shout out to our students. I know this has been hard for them, our faculty and staff. Big shout out to school nutrition. They've worked just as hard, if not harder, since we've been closed. We're all working to make the best of our situation. I'm very sad for what our students have missed, but it's beyond our control or anyone's control. They've missed instruction and friends and events, and our athletes have missed the spring season and so much more. I know it's hard for everybody involved. I know it's hard for our seniors, and I'm sad for them. And I want to wish all those folks a happy Easter and a happy spring break as well. And Madam Chairman or Chairwoman, I would also like to request that on our May agenda, I know it was set to be on this agenda. We were going to discuss graduation, and it was pulled because we really didn't know that we could make a decision. But I would like to add graduation and prom to our May agenda so we can at least discuss it and make a decision if possible. And I'd also like to add to our May agenda new school construction. And I'd like for that to be on every agenda from here on out, because we've got a lot of decisions to make, and we may not be able to make decisions, but at least we can update our citizens on what our thoughts are, how we're moving along, and I think they deserve that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Jones, if you would add those two items to our work session for the upcoming April meeting.
May meeting.
Oh, you don't want to discuss it in a couple weeks? Okay.
Well, that's fine, but I just want to make sure it's on the May agenda.
Okay, change that, Ms. Jones, to the May 7th meeting, if you would, for both of those items. All right, Dr. Dobney?
Yes, I'd just like to thank everybody that's helping us get through this coronavirus 19 situation. Just hope everybody stays safe.
Thank you, Dr. Dobney. Mr. Croddick?
All right. Yep. I'd also like to tell everybody I really appreciate everybody's hard work, and it's tough times, and we'll all pull through it. There's been a lot of people doing a lot of stuff they probably would have never thought they would have had to do, but they've stepped up and done it. And it is amazing to watch what can happen in just a little bit of time. So with that, I'm very impressed. Anyhow, I hope everybody does have a happy Easter. And with all this extra time, maybe some of these kids can find themselves a real book, And that'd be nice. And anyhow, God bless Currituck County.
Thank you, Mr. Craddock. All right, Mark, do you have any closing comments?
Just to reiterate what some of the other people have said, but to put a little bit of a little flavor over top of it. Sometimes when we're working with people day in and day out, you get to the point of almost taking them for granted. But this type of situation, I'm just completely amazed and grateful for the efforts that people are putting forward. They're rolling up their sleeves and they're giving it their all, and everybody's pulling together in an amazing way, all for the benefit of us and our families. And you know, we have some that at times they raise a concern, but I think it's driven by fear. It's not because they don't want to help, but it's just because they're worried, and I can understand that. But for the most part, everybody is going the extra mile, going above and beyond. And I'm just grateful for the people we have in our school district, because they're getting the job done at an amazing level.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanik. I would just like to say kudos to all of our Currituck County School students and staff. We went over some things, just highlights of what has happened since the COVID-19 outbreak. I would like to thank Sandy Reynolds, Mark Stefanik, Matt Lutz, Renee Dowdy, Yvette Jones, Angela Rodriguez, Matt Mullins, every teacher, every custodian, every student. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do. It's a group effort, and we are in this together. And I just want to reiterate the meals that our child nutrition department has served, 54,000 meals. That just blows my mind, and I'm just so proud to represent Currituck County. The COVID-19 updates that will be going out to all of our residents. Please be on the lookout that through social media, updates on Facebook. Technology devices have been distributed to all our students, so they do have capabilities to go online and work on their studies remotely, and I'm very proud of that. And then in closing, this is always a tough time of year for me, but you know, we serve a risen Savior, Jesus Christ, and I'm just so happy to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ and Easter coming up on Sunday. And I think of all the times that we need to be thankful and just down on our knees, thanking Jesus Christ for what he's given all of us, and thankful for watching over us. And right now we need his healing power for all of the world, not just the United States, but all of the world, to heal this virus and to eradicate it. And I would just like to ask that everyone pray vigilantly that prayer, that this virus be gone as soon as possible. And with that being said, I ask for someone to make the motion that we adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have a second?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you and happy Easter.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your patience through all that.
Thank you, Sandy, so much.
Thank
I don't know how you did that, but we pulled it off, I think.
I think we did. Happy Easter.
Happy
Happy Easter to all of you.